In 2006, I thought my rugby career was over. Back-to-back surgeries and the bone in my wrist still wasn't healing. I didn't think I would get back on the field. But in that time, I picked up 20 kgs. I was overweight. I was not in a great place. I was actually in a very dark place. Bad habits started to develop, late nights, overindulging in food, and not really taking care of myself. There came a stage where I realized I was letting my family down. Everything that they have worked for could potentially be for nothing. And I had a choice to make because a lot of people have written me off. A lot of people said I'll never be able to make it back into professional rugby. But all I did was I made a conscious decision. I decided to stay in the fight. I stayed committed to my goals, even though I had to reset and I wasn't in a good place. Anything is possible if you got the power of the mind. These are the lessons from the game which teach us to be resilient. All you got to do is just stay in the fight. Hi everybody, and welcome to tip number 13, the power of resilience. A lot of you ask me, Coach, how do I build resilience? And I have done a few videos on this topic, but I thought I would share today with you a bit of a personal story of something which happened to me back in 2005 to 2007. This was a really tough time in my career where I was injured for 2 years, having back-to-back surgeries on my scaphoid, and it just didn't want to heal. But also, to be honest, with that stage of my life, I was young, and I had the privilege of having 2 contracts with South Africa and with my union. So I was living the high life, to be honest with you. And I was taking on habits that wasn't helping my recovery process. But I was also in a dark place. At that stage, didn't realize that not playing the game, how bad it affected me. I was picking up weight little by little, but the fact was that I wasn't even conscious of it. I would buy new clothes because my clothes wouldn't fit. But anyway, that period taught me a lot of lessons. I've learned that sometimes you can be in your darkest place, in your darkest moment. And even at some stages you think there is no way back. You believe that you won't be able to find solution, but anything is possible when you actually find that trigger event. And in that case, for me, it was just before the World Cup, or the preseason before the World Cup year started. And when I got on that scale, because for some reason I didn't jump on a scale while I was injured. Can you believe that? Maybe it's because I knew subconsciously where I was at and I didn't want to face reality. But when I jumped onto that scale, when I saw 140 kgs, I said, nah, this can't be. 140 kgs, normally I weigh about 118. That's when I realized something needed to change. Going through my head, I realized that, listen, is this who I want to be? I had to ask some tough questions, and I thought of my family, what my parents did, how they sacrificed a lot of things for me to go to an unbelievable school. My community, the people that I was representing, I realized I needed to be better. And this is not one of my finest moments in my career and my life, but I share the story with you because some of you might be going through tough times. Some of you might be feeling that, you know what, I can't see the light. I can't see the end of the tunnel. This is too hard. This is too tough. And recently, speaking to an unbelievable guest on my podcast, he mentioned all you got to do is stay in the fight. I know it sounds that simple, but it's about taking it day by day. It's not easy. Even today, in this transition period for me as a coach, there are some days where it's hard. I do miss coaching on the field, so I need to get back into it. I want to get back into it. But also on the other side, I'm just taking it day by day. I'm just knocking on doors, getting ready for the next opportunity, preparing myself. So when the opportunity arises, that I'm ready to take it on again. So stay in the fight. That is very important. During that time, I remember speaking to doctors and saying that, listen here, your bone's not grafting's not taking on. I had the operation, took bone from my hips. I was tough at the stage. At some stage, I was anxious when I was going to the doctor because almost every single time I saw him, it was bad news. For some reason, the graft was not taking, and that was frustrating. And when we let the frustrations get the most of us, we can resort to bad habits, and that's not what you should do. That's why your support system around you is very important. And I kind of withdrew myself a bit from my loved ones, which is not the right thing to do. So I hope that you guys learned from the story. I eventually came back and I was selected for the Bulls team. I won a Super Rugby in 2007. I worked hard in that off-season. You guys heard that story in the off-season where Gary Botha was shouting at me. I lost 20 kgs in 3 months because I knew what I wanted to achieve. I was clear on my goals. I was clear on my vision. I was going back to that boy who was 13 years old, watching the 95 World Cup, watching the Springboks win it. And I said I wanted to experience that. I want to play for my country. As a coach, I have witnessed so many players not staying in a fight, giving up too early. And I shared that story with you because I want you to realize that, 2 years, that's a long fight. Anything is possible if you believe. Anything is possible if you back yourself. But most importantly, the day when you are really brutally honest with yourself and you decide to take up arms again and get back into it, sharpen your blade, sharpen your sword, that's when the real journey starts. Getting back on track or fighting back is not always easy, especially when you've been humiliated, embarrassed, or massively disappointed. I've seen players, they have a poor scrum, they bail out, they have a poor training day, they have a poor week. You make one mistake in the game and you lose your shit. One moment doesn't define you. One event doesn't define you. But these are the lessons we learn from these tough moments, these tough disappointments. You ask me how resilience is built. That is not an easy question to answer, but one part of it is you learn a lot about yourself when times are tough, when things are hard, when it's a fitness session. Do you just go through the motions? Do you stop short at the line? Or do you actually just give it your all? Or do you cruise through the whole session and then you only sprint on the last rep? But if you're pushing yourself consistently and you're really trying to be the best version of yourself, anything is possible. Resilience is built through effort. Resilience is built through courage, the willingness to fight back, the willingness to stay in the fight, no matter how hard or how uncomfortable it is. You're going to receive criticism in your life. You're going to receive negative comments, but you can't let that define you. You want to build resilience. You need to accept that sometimes bad things are going to happen to you. You need to accept that sometimes you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have poor performances. But the big thing is what you learn from that. That is the most. And I'll tell you this, when bad things happen to us, it feels like it's the worst thing in the world. And in that moment, it potentially is. So I'm not just talking about rugby. I'm talking about everything, whether something personal happens to you. You got to stay in that fight. It's hard. It's not easy. When you get injured, when you get dropped, you lose your contract, you lose your spot in the team, you lose your job. These things happen. We've all experienced key life events. All of us, myself included. Some of the stuff I don't share publicly. All right, out of respect for others. But we all experience these key life events where things get hard. So I would like to share with you guys 3 steps to help you to reset and build this resilience, which is very important. Number 1, you got to remind yourself of what you want to achieve. Where are you going? Not the end point, but what is that destination that you are chasing where you want to be? What do we do if we want to go on a holiday overseas? We save up money. We work hard. We're working towards that holiday. That's just a destination. It's not the final destination. But you got to remind yourself of what you want to achieve. That's very important so that you can get back on track. Then you got to be honest with yourself. Number 2, you need to check in with yourself. You need to ask yourself, where am I at now? What is my starting point? And sometimes the distance between your starting point and the following destination that you are chasing can be so long, can be so massive that it can scare the shit out of you. But that's okay. That's why it's important for you to put in key milestones. It's important for you to push forward. I know I'm going a bit long today. I decided I wanted to share this video with you guys because I've been receiving so many DMs here in the community, here in school. And for those of you that are watching this video on YouTube, if you want to access this community, all you have to do is just check the description below. The link is there and you can join the community. I'll give you access. But a lot of you, I know, you want to get back in the fight, and you need to know that even the greatest players in the world have achieved that. I'm not talking about myself. I'm talking about other players that I've had on the podcast before. But you got to check in with yourself and you got to ask yourself, where am I at now? All right. And it comes down to another question. Where am I going? That's the most important thing. And then number 3, you got to back yourself. You got to believe in yourself. You can't rely on others to believe in yourself. People can come to you. They can say, you got this. We believe in you. It can reassure you, but it won't help you to switch. It won't help you to reset. If it doesn't come from within, if it doesn't come from yourself, it will not be possible. All right, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you found this video valuable, please share it with your friends. Invite them into the community here in school. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please like, follow, and subscribe to my channel. And as I've mentioned, if you want to join the community, all you have to do is just check the link in the description below. All right, everybody. Check you guys on the next video. Ciao, ciao.